Hi baby. So this is the cute silly photo that I picked for this time. Gonna try and do a bit of a longer recording. A little bit tired, but not too bad, not too bad. Work was okay. So I believe we're on chapter 4. I don't know why. I could have sworn I said, yeah. Did I already read chapter 4? Oh my god. The one interesting thing in the street food. Yeah, I already read chapter 4. I have at least enough memory of that. Okay, because I was like, I could have sworn I read 2 chapters for you. Yes. Okay, because we've met Cassidy in Spanish class. Very weird Spanish class, but okay. I still have a bit of a clogged nose, of course. So, chapter 5. When I got home, I changed into a pair of sport shorts and stretched out on a pool chair in the backyard. The cushion was dusty, and as I listened to the water lap against the landscape rocks that made up our fake waterfall, I tried to remember the last time anyone had actually used the pool. The sun was hot on my chest, and so bright that I could barely read the instructions in my Spanish exercise book. "Ezra, what are you doing?" my mom shrilled, startling me. I rolled over and squinted toward the house, where she hovered behind the screen door, carrying a yoga mat. "I'm coming in, all right?" I called back. "What were you thinking?" my mom asked gently as I joined her in the kitchen. She was still in her yoga clothes, which made her look a lot younger than 47. I shrugged. "I thought I could get a tan. I'm too pale." "Oh, honey." She took a carton of lemonade out of the fridge and poured us each a glass. "You know you're supposed to stay out of direct sunlight." I shrugged and took a sip of the lemonade, which tasted awful. Everything my mom bought was healthy, which meant that it was helpfully missing at least one key ingredient, such as gluten, sugar, or flavor. She was right, though, about the sunlight thing. I was still on painkillers from my last knee surgery, and one of the more delightful side effects was increased sensitivity to sunlight. After 20 minutes in the backyard, I was a bit dizzy, but I wasn't about to admit it. "How was school?" she frowned, the picture of concern. Quietly humiliating, I thought. "Fine," I said. "Did anything interesting happen?" she pressed. I thought about how I'd gotten kicked out of pep rally over a hypothetical nicotine patch. Incidentally, I've never even tried a cigarette. And about Coach A's nightmare-ish AP Euro class. I thought about the new girl, a world away from the disappearing strawberry field in a man-made lake of Eastwood, perched on a gothic rooftop in her funny old clothes, strumming a guitar as she stared out at the bell towers and cobblestones. "Not really," I said, and then I pretended that I was tired and went upstairs. Our house is a monstrosity. 6 bedrooms and a bonus room, all painted the same calming shade of free-range eggshell. It looked like one of those models you walk through in the future subdivisions, full of generically, oh my god, I can't even say it. Generically, full of generically bland showroom furniture, the kind of house that you can't imagine anyone actually living in. We moved in when I was 8, an upgrade from an older gated community to the other side of the loop. A year later, we inherited Cooper, my mad aunt's massive poodle, when she got remarried and moved into a luxury condo that didn't allow large pets. Cooper was a standard poodle, the kind that looked like furry black giraffes. I used to take him for walks when I was a kid, riding my Razor scooter while he pulled up and down the streets. I snuck him into my bed when I had nightmares, even though he was supposed to sleep in the downstairs laundry room. He was about 8 years old when we got him, and you could tell he considered himself terribly elegant, a regular lord of the manor. Alright, I'll admit it. I loved that crazy dog, and the way his fur smelled like popcorn and how his eyes gave the impression that he understood everything you said. He was waiting for me in my room, curled up at the foot of my bed with his nose on the copy of The Great Gatsby that I'd been thumbling through the night before. "How about a walk, old sport?" his eyes seemed to ask. I sat next to him and patted his head. "Sorry," I said, and I swear he nodded sagely before settling back down on top of Mom's old paperback of Gatsby. He just broke my heart, Cooper. I wanted to grab his leash and take him for his usual jog around the neighborhood, culminating in a full-out race down the steep hiking trail at the end of Crescent Vista. And the thought of how long it had been since we'd done that, and how I'd never be able to take him for a jog again, hit me full force. I turned on the same Bob Dylan playlist I'd been moping to all summer and laid down on top of a duvet. I wasn't exactly crying, but it hurt like hell to swallow. I stayed like that for a while, listening to that frantic, depressing old music with the blinds closed and trying to convince myself that what I really wanted was my old life back. But I felt completely hollow that afternoon, sitting there in Spanish class with the old crew, talking about nothing, about lunch. It was like a part of me that had enjoyed those friends had evaporated, leaving behind a huge, echoing emptiness, and I was scrambling on the edge of it, trying not to fall into the hole within myself, because I was terrified to find out how far down it went. I had mostly gotten it together when my mom called me for dinner, though. Yeah, through the intercom at precisely 6:30. She cooked salmon with quinoa and kale, and not to sound ungrateful or anything, but my father and I would have preferred pizza. Oh, I can't talk with... I have one nostril clogged. Oh my god. So my father and I would have preferred pizza, but we didn't say anything. You never can to my mom. I look a lot like my dad. Same dark curls, although his are gray at the temples. Same blue eyes and slightly cleft chin. He's 6'1" though, so he has me beat by 2 inches. He's one of those buddy corporate lawyers who donates a mint of his old college to his old college fraternity. Booming laugh, always smells like Listerine, played tennis once, plays golf now. You know the type. He kept glancing over his shoulder at dinner, either expecting or maybe hoping for the phone to ring. Dad keeps a home office so he can get work done before and after he comes home from his actual office. He claims it's because New York is 3 hours ahead and sometimes he has to take conference calls at 6 in the morning. But really it's because he wants us to see how important he is, that he can't ever be away from his files and fax machine. My parents quietly discuss what to do about the neighbor's tree branches that hung over our backyard, and then the phone to my father's office rang. The call went to the voicemail, the familiar notes rifling through his answering machine. Dad dashes to the phone. "Stop calling, you little bastards," he roared. Mom pursed her lips and ate another mouthful of quinoa, but I nearly died laughing. When my father had his office line installed, he must have pissed off the telephone company because they gave him a real gem of a number. Do you remember the first time you figured out that you could play Mary Had a Little Lamb by dialing a certain combination of tones on the keypad? That combination just so happens to ring my father's home office. There's usually a completely clueless kid on the line punching away at the keypad, unaware that he's even made a call. It drives my father nuts. But he's convinced it would be too much of a hassle to have the number changed. Personally, I think it's hilarious. Sometimes, late at night, I'll pick up and try to get a conversation going with whoever's at the other end. A lot of the time they don't speak English, but last December this charming little kid decided I was Santa Claus and made me promise to get him a retainer for Christmas, which just about killed me. When Dad sat down at the table, he picked up his fork as though we hadn't just heard him shouting obscenities into the phone. "So, Ezra," he said, giving me the same schmoozy grin he must use at every UCLA alumni donor reception. "How's the new car running?" "Yeah, it's awesome," I said, even though it was just an average 5-year-old sedan, not like I'd been expecting our insurance or my dad to replace the Roadster. But I mean, it would have been nice. "Well, just remember, kiddo, if you put a dent in that thing, I'll kill you." Dad started laughing like said something tremendously witty, and I offered up a weak grin in return, hoping I'd missed the joke. Ugh, I can't do like voices when my nose clogged. It is so much harder to breathe. But it's okay. I like this. I also really can't keep figuring out where. Oh, okay, 10 minutes. So that's a button. Okay. I was like, I don't know how long I've been recording. It's been 10 minutes. Cool. So, chapter 6. If everything really does get better the way everyone claims, then happiness should be graphable. You draw up an x-axis and a y-axis, where a positive slope represents a positive attitude. Plot some points, and there you go. But that's crap, because better isn't quantifiable. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about in calculus the next morning while Mr. Choi reviewed derivatives. Blah. I love you. Well, that and how much I hate math class. I got in line for the coffee cart during break, where I had the particular luck to get stuck behind two freshman girls who wouldn't stop giggling. They kept bumping into each other with their shoulders and glancing back at me, as though daring each other to say something. I don't know what to make of it. They hung around while I gave my coffee order, and when I grabbed the sugar pack from the little station, the taller girl thrust a stirrer at me. That's a weird-ass sentence, but I get it. Thanks, I said, wondering what this was about. I'd occasionally experienced this sort of thing from love-struck freshmen during junior year, but I was pretty certain that my status as an unattainable upperclassman has been irrevocably withdrawn. Hi, Ezra, the girl said, giggling. Remember me? Toby's sister. Yeah, of course, I said, even though I doubted I would have recognized her in the hallway. She looked like so many other freshman girls, skinny and brunette with a pink hoodie and matching braces. And then I realized I'd completely forgotten her name. Smooth, dude. I stalled, stirring the sugar into my coffee, and then I felt a tap on my shoulder. Good morning, Cassidy said, brightly. What kind of high school has its own beverage cart, I said. We had a coffee rebellion last year. Because of that, before that, it was just hot chocolate. I started to introduce Cassidy to Toby's sister, mostly out of politeness, and hesitated, wishing I could remember the girl's name. Emily, Toby's sister supplied. Right, Emily, I said sheepishly, committing it to memory. The passing bell rang, and both freshmen looked panicked, as though the world would collapse if they didn't head to class that very second. To be a ninth grader. Shouldn't you two get to class? I asked, gently teasing them. Don't want to be late. They scrambled away as though I'd given them orders. I could hear them giggling as they walked, their shoulders pressed together. Don't want to be late, Cassidy echoed with a smirk. She ditched the oversized boy's shirt in favor of a plaid dress that must have been an antique. It was tight in all the right places, though, and Butch Cassidy, she was not. I threw away my empty sugar packet and headed towards the speech and debates classroom. It's called a tartle, Cassidy said, following me. In case you were wondering. What's a tartle? That pause in conversation when you're about to introduce someone, but you've forgotten their name. There's a word for it. In Scotland, it's called a tartle. Fascinating, I said sourly. Actually, it was interesting, but I was still upset with her over what happened in Spanish class. Wait, Cassidy pressed it. About what I said yesterday, I don't know. God, you must hate me. Go ahead. I give you permission to aim an invisible crossbow at my heart. She stopped walking and stood there for a moment, her eyes squeezed shut, as though expecting me to play along. When I didn't, she frowned, and caught up with me once more. It's not like I was asking around or anything, she continued. The whole school's talking about you, and we're going to be late, by the way, if we don't hurry. You're the one walking with me, I pointed out. She bit her lip, and I could tell that she had made a pretty educated guess as to why I hadn't wanted to walk her to English the day before. This strange, silent moment of understanding passed between us. "What's your fourth period?" I asked, filling the silence. "Speech and debate?" Her lips curled, as though she'd gotten stuck with the class I like. Oh my god. As though she had gotten stuck with the class like I had. "Me too. Listen, you should go ahead." "And let you take the invisible crossbow and aim it at my back?" she scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous." And so we were late together. "Faulkner!" Toby boomed. He was sitting on top of the teacher's desk and wearing another shocker of a bow tie. Class hadn't started, and hardly anyone was in their seats. Though the little window built into the door, I could see Mrs. Wang in the annex in conversations with the journalism teacher. Toby slid off the desk, practically choked when he saw Cassidy. "What are you doing here?" he splurred. "You two know each other?" I frowned, glancing back and forth between them. Cassidy looked horrified, and I couldn't read Toby's expression at all. Aw, dude. Sorry, that's my own commentary. Well, Toby seemed to change his mind mid-explanation. "She's a fencer." For some reason, this made Cassidy uncomfortable. "What, like swords?" I asked. "He means a picket fencer," Cassidy clarified, grimacing as though the subject was painful. "It's just this term from debate. It's not important." "Like hell it's not," Toby retorted. "I can't believe you transferred to Eastwood. You transferred here, right? Because seriously, this is epic. Everyone's gonna freak out." Cassidy shrugged, clearly not wanting to talk about it. We took a table together in the back, and after a few minutes, Mrs. Wang came in and passed out a course description. She was young, barely out of grad school. The sort of teacher who would constantly lose control of the class and quietly panic until the teacher next door came in and yelled. She'd talk about the different types of debate, and then made Toby get up and sell us on joining the debate team. He sauntered to the front of the classroom, buttoned his blazer, and grinned. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "I presume that we all share an interest in booze, mischief, and co-ed sleepovers." The color drained from Mrs. Wang's face. "I'm speaking, of course, about getting into college, where one has the option to engage in those sorts of illicit activities after achieving academic excellence, naturally." Toby quickly amended. "And joining the debate team makes an excellent resume stuffer for those college applications." Toby continued talking about the debate team, the time commitment, and the school's past record. "Or even worse than the golf team." He was a decent public speaker, and for a moment I wondered why he'd never gone out for the student government. And then I remembered the severed head. Afterward, Toby's sent around a sign-up sheet for the first debate tournament of the year, which no one signed. My clock nose is getting worse. When the sheet got to Cassidy, her shoulders shook with silent laughter. She slid the paper onto my desk. Written at the top of the list, in obnoxiously hot pink Sharpie, was this beauty. "Ezra Mother effing Faulkner, yo. In brackets, you owe me for the Gatorade piss." I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. The room went deadly silent, and Toby grinned like he just won the ping pong world championship. Miss Wang frowned at me. I quickly turned my laughter into a fake cough fit, and Cassidy leaned over and helped me whack the back of my back. To my deepest shame, this made me actually start coughing in earnest. By the time I got it under control, it had sort of become an event. "Smooth." "Sorry," Cassidy whispered. I shrugged like it didn't matter, but when she wasn't looking, I scribbled her name into the sign-up sheet in payback, and then passed it forward. For the regular class, we worked in pairs, structuring parliamentary debates. Cassidy and I partnered together. "What's a picket fencer?" I pressed, when she made no move to start the assignment. It's when you get first place in every round at a tournament," she sighed, fiddling with her still-capped pen. Your cumulatives a row of ones, like little picket fences." I considered this, the idea of not just winning, but doing so without a single defeat as Toby wandered over and pulled up a chair. Yeah, hi. In case you were wondering, you're not going to have to turn that in. You're sure? I asked. I swear it on the grave of my sweet dead hamster Petunia, he said, which wasn't exactly reassuring since, to my knowledge, Toby never owned a hamster. Mrs. Wang asked me to come up with a random topic during break as an exercise. Technically, I'm not in this class. I'm her student aide. So you're her Wang man? Cassidy asked. The three of us laughed, and it struck me that Cassidy and Toby knew each other. That if anyone was an outsider, it wasn't the new girl, it was me. And when the bell rang, Mrs. Wang told us to hold on to our debates, and Toby mouthed, "Told you so." The classroom began to clear out, and I watched Cassidy fasten the buckle of her satchel. Her hair was half pinned up into this crown of braids, with her sharp planes of her cheekbones and her pale skin. She looked as though she stepped out of a different era, at where people bought war bonds to decamp to the countryside to avoid air raids. I've never seen anyone like her, and I couldn't help but stare. Come on, Toby said, and Cassidy glanced up, nearly catching me staring. Join me for lunch. You're coming too, Faulkner. I could use a new sidekick. Actually, I'm going to Chipotle, with Evan and Jimmy in them. But it sounded ridiculous. Even as I said it, I knew I wasn't really going. Sure you are, Toby laughed. I'm not taking no for an answer. Now let's go, for my harem does not eat before I have graced them with my magnificence. I like this guy, not gonna lie. How bad is my nose? On a scale of 1 to 10, do I sound clogged? I can fucking hear it in my own voice. Wait. Sorry, I had to spit out a bit of phlegm. And the funny thing is that I'm not even sick. It's just the allergies, and I'm refusing to take allergy meds. You're gonna have to force them down my throat. I'm dying. Okay. What time? 22. Oh, record time. Chapter 7. The moment I entered the quad, I realized I'd made a grand miscalculation. Jimmy and Evan hadn't gone to Chipotle after all. All of my old friends had stayed on campus. I could see them there, at the choice table near the wall that divided the upper and lower quads. The water polo and tennis guys were squished around the too small table, balancing girlfriends on their laps. Hot. Charlotte's Song Squad crowd sat on the wall, drinking Diet Cokes and swinging their bare legs. It wasn't quite the same crew as last year, but the composition didn't matter. It was still that table. The one where laughter carried across the quad, and everyone who heard it wished they were in on the joke. Yo, Captain, Luke Shepard called, catching a sight of Toby and waving. I could feel everyone watching as we crossed the quad. Toby in his bow tie, Cassidy in her crown of braids, and me with the sleeve of my back hoodie pulled low over my wrist brace, trying to look as though I needed my cane less than I actually did. Toby ushered us over to one of the better placed tables in the upper quad, an 8-seater with a gray beach umbrella, half full of our year residents eccentrics. Meet the rest of our school's illustration debate team, he said, and for a moment I thought he was joking. There was Luke Shepard, the president of the film club, with his hipster glasses and signature smirk. The year before, our school had followed this blog called Auto-Tune the Principal, and while Luke had never outright claimed credit, everyone knew it was him. Sitting next to Luke was Sam Mayfield, looking like he'd gotten lost on his way home from the country club. Sam smacked the future lawyer, and even though he was a junior, he had been head of the campus Republicans for as long as I could remember. Across from his iPad was Austin Covelli, our school's resident graphic designer. Austin was the guy who whipped up the yearbook cover and designed the school's sweatshirts. Back during sophomore year, he'd launched an online thrift store. Oh, t-shirt store. Wow, I'm just fully lying. Mostly I've been picturing Toby's friends as a bunch of obscure honor roll students, the sort who clubbed together out of social necessity and made it through high school largely unnoticed. Not these guys. Look who I found, Toby said gleefully. Luke's jaw dropped. Sam let out an incredulous laugh. And what did Austin do, huh? Oh. Well, well, if it isn't Cassidy Thorpe, Austin said, flicking his shaggy blonde hair out of his eyes without looking away from his game. What the heck are you doing here? Cassidy smiled hugely. Waiting to graduate and move on with my life? Same as y'all. Now, how come none of you ever mentioned that your school has a coffee cart? Cassidy slid into the bench next to Toby, pulled out a packet of peanut butter crackers, and patted the seat next to her. It was at the end of the bench, thank God, and I wondered if she'd left it for me on purpose so I wouldn't have to ask anyone to shift down. Oh, right, Toby said, a little too theatrically, pretending he'd only just remembered. Oh, sorry. Oh, right. You all know Faulkner? Hey, I said sheepishly, taking the proffered seat. I guess they thought I was just passing by, showing the new student around, but when I sat down, Luke gave Toby a significant look, as though my joining at the table needed to be preceded by his approval. I put on my sunglasses and watched everyone pick at their food. Lunch starts at 11:30, which is ridiculous on account for how some nearby food chains are still serving breakfast sandwiches. I hadn't brought anything with me, and I glanced towards the lunch line in the lower quad, which had an endless stretch of underclassmen. Quick, eat these. Phoebe Chang slid a plastic container of grocery store cupcakes on the table, her nose stud sparkling in the sunlight. There was a pink stripe in her hair that I didn't remember. I just swiped these from the front office. It's the school nurse's birthday. She glanced over her shoulder as though expecting to be apprehended at any moment, and Toby grabbed one of the vanilla cupcakes. 50 points for irony if we get food poisoning, he said. By the way, Phoebe, this is Cassidy, and you know Ezra. Phoebe, who was still basking in the glory of her cupcake heist, glanced at me and nearly dropped her iced tea. Holy crap, I'm 5 minutes late and I missed the most historic lunch table switch in the annals? What? In the annals of the upper quad. It's annals. It's ANNALS. I really almost read that as annals. I was like, alright. I thought you didn't do annals, Phoebes, Luke said with a wink. Phoebe picked up a cupcake, smashed the frosting down her tongue, and offered it to Luke with an evil grin. I don't know about that. How about some sloppy seconds, Shepherd? Luke took the cupcake and bit into it with relish, antagonizing her. I wondered how long they'd been dating. Phoebe was not, in fact, a notorious cupcake thief. That was actually the editor of the school paper. So, Ezra, Phoebe said, sliding into the bench next to Luke. How's life as a teenage vampire? Toby snorted, and Cassidy snickered with a mouthful of cupcake. Oh, come on, Phoebe continued. You're asking for it. Pale skin, black clothes, no lunch, and the whole brooding thing. It's hilarious. You should get some body glitter and go after some unsuspecting freshman. You should, Cassidy agreed. Tell her you're a dangerous monster and mention how good her blood smells. Wrong time of the month on that one, and I'm getting slapped. I muttered, and everyone laughed. You're funny. Phoebe passed me the last chocolate cupcake, and I always thought your friends were laughing over their own farts. 90% of Eastwood's male population laughs over their own farts, Toby said. Present company excluded, naturally. How many points would I lose if I farted right now? Luke asked with a chuckle. Don't even think about it, Phoebe warned, preemptively scooting away from him. I peeled the wrapper off my cupcake and glanced towards my old lunch table, where Charlotte had climbed into Evan's lap. She was texting, her ponytail spilling over one shoulder. Evan's hand was on her thigh. Suddenly she looked up and caught me staring. She nudged Evan, who glanced over as well, clearly wondering what I was doing at a different table, but it turned out they didn't really care, because half a moment later, they were stuck in face. Come on, new girl, Phoebe said, standing up. Let's go to the bathroom. Once Phoebe and Cassidy had gone, Luke chuckled and shook his head. Can someone please explain to me why Why, my girlfriend is going to the bathroom with Cassidy Thorpe? I know nothing about the intricacies of female pack behavior, said Sam, but I do know that we need to explain Friday's guest list. Luke shot Sam a dark look. Sorry? Sam muttered, glancing guiltily into my direction. What the heck? Austin said. I thought she disappeared, and now she's at Eastwood? It doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense? I asked. Any of it. Toby balled up his cupcake wrapper. But then Cassidy always liked it that way. You know how I said she was unbeatable at the bait? That's not the half of it. She never seemed to try. She'd show up in tournaments in a blatant dress code violation, throw in a picnic in an elevator, and not even bother to come to the award ceremony. She competed for this really snotty prep school, which made it even stranger. But she quits after winning the state quals last year. Gave up her shot to the state championship 4 days before the tournament, and the rumor was that she left school suddenly, just completely disappeared. Did you ever find out why? I asked. Like anyone could get a straight answer of Cassidy. Toby laughed. Incoming, Austin muttered, nodding towards Phoebe and Cassidy. Everyone turned to stare at them guiltily, but I was watching something entirely different. The spectacle of Charlotte and Evan and their all too public face-sucking. When the girls rejoined us, Phoebe glanced at my uneaten cupcake before reaching across the table to pat my hand. Don't worry, she teased. There's some nice O positives in the nurse's office if you're thirsty. Ah, sweet Jesus. My nose do be clogged. I'll stop recording, and I'll see if I can record some more after my nose calms down a little. I love you. I love you very, very much. You're still camping while I'm recording this. I actually forget. I love that I said this, and I sounded clearly like thus. Oh my god. Ah. Disgusting. Ugh. Anyways, we're stopping right at the beginning of chapter 8. So, I'll try recording more once my nose recovers a little bit more. I love you. I love you very, very much. I hope you're enjoying camping. I hope it stopped raining enough for you to actually be able to cook and eat and things like that. I love you. Have a good sleep if you're gonna sleep. Bye.